Hey, um, let's take a look at the Supernova 2 editor beta. This is the first beta version, what we've got. So let's do the VST3 in live. I'm going to do some MIDI tracks and assign the editor and audio tracks so we can hear what's happening. So let's do the editor. And before we go into using the editor, we need to make sure that global channel is set to 16 on both devices, the hardware and the software. So in the global settings, it's on the first page, global channel 16, and then C6 reception is normal, MIDI clock is external in my case, and local control is on. Obviously the keyboard version is going to behave differently when the local is on. I'm not sure if there is a local control for the keyboard itself and the knobs, but yeah, I've got the rack, so that's all I can kind of show. Okay, memory protect is off, and incoming control changes are enabled and incoming program changes are enabled, and the next page, program change and controllers TX both on. System C6 TX delays 155 for me. That seems to work. And yeah, I think that's pretty much all about all what comes to the hardware itself. If you want to kind of predefine your Supernova, you can go to individual parts and set MIDI channels so that part 1 is 1, part 2 is 2, etc, etc. So I'm just gonna quickly go through those. Okay, so now I've got part 1 is 1, 8 is 8, so that works best when using the editor. Usually how you want to do the editor is you choose one performance and you build your performance with the programs for each part. That's how I've designed the editor and how it's being best to use. This is simply because you can do performances with the editor, but each performance only saves bank and program number information in it, not the actual programs or the locations. So when you do double click on a performance on a librarian view, then it sends the performance settings, which are basically all of these global performance tab information, to your Supernova, including MIDI channels and output assignments. So there are these lock icons to lock the MIDI channels per part and the output assignments per part. I would definitely use those if I were you, because when changing different performance, it's gonna affect the channels, and if the channels are not aligned, you can't hear anything from the Supernova itself. Okay, so let's get cracking. First of all, I need to choose the MIDI interface, which is my Supernova, and it's going to start synchronizing data from the hardware. And now it's saying it's ready. Data request is completed. So we can go to each of the parts And you can see on this performance page now it says part keyboard transpose is -2. So this is important for if you have the keyboard version. With the rack version it doesn't have any effect on the sound or how you play it. Alright, so I'm just going to go out from the performance view and go back to the program view, and I'm going to move this aside, and let's find a audio tracks where the audio is coming. It seems I need to configure the inputs. No, they are all on. Oh, there we go. So let's toggle on the arm switch so we can see where the audio is coming. So that's our Supernova, and input monitoring is on. Okay, now let's go and play with some of the sounds. When you use the editor and you have only one instrument track and you want to go to, say, different part and you play a note, you can hear it still the same, but in order to get that to work you need to choose this icon, show keyboard, and this will show a text all MIDI data forced to active part. So whatever part you have chosen and you play MIDI or tweak some knobs on your controller, that data is being forced into the active part. So you can see this little icon right below the number 1, so it's saying that data is going forced into part 1 and now being forced to part 2, and 1 again. Okay, let's start going through some of the presets. I'm just going to show you the factory ones, and I'm going to toggle on library control on program change, so I can kind of leave the librarian view and go to the oscillators or filters. This is something new that's coming shortly. This is modulation, matrix, destinations, so you can, or sources in this case, so you can see some of the knobs have these little dots appearing when you move them, so that means there is a modulation available. Let's say we've got oscillator 1 and we shift and drag the mouse, we now adjust the oscillator 1 mix with mod wheel. So whenever we do mod wheel, that's going to affect the oscillator 1 level. Same applies to LFO1, LFO2, 3, envelope 2, envelope 3, and this is the same on the filters page. So there is cutoff and resonance which have this option available, so you can do modulation wheel, and it affects the sound as expected. This was only available on the LFO matrix page, which is a bit tedious to use. Quite hard to cramp a lot of parameters into one view, so I've added this option here, so you can easily kind of dial in the settings you want. Okay, so going forward, being in oscillators tab and library control on, we can use the plus and minus buttons to change different sounds, or we can choose a different bank from this menu, which it will select a bank in a librarian and then the programs associated for each of the slots. So that's that. If you toggle on request data and program change, and you trigger a program change from your MIDI controller or from the editor plus and minus buttons, it will change a program based on a bank and program number from the hardware and request that data back to the UI. Pretty straightforward. So I always kind of use the librarian mode, because what I want to do is dump data from my computer to the hardware and have the computer memory always organized, and hardware is kind of just having the sounds in a buffer, and that's it. Never really writing any data into the hardware. So yeah, what else? We're going to use up and down keyboard buttons to toggle different presets. Soft Satan, I like it. Okay, yeah, well, you get the idea. You got quite a lot of controls over the hardware from the UI itself, and in this case you can see there is a mod wheel assigned to oscillator 1 and 2 levels. LFO1, LFO2 is assigned to sync level, and envelope 2 is assigned to filter, and then you've got the effects section. There is two options how to go about effects. So you can use effects from part, which means the effect settings is stored in the performance data, or you can choose to use program mode, which then uses the effects designed in a program. Always use the hardware in performance mode, but you can open the librarian and just dump programs for each part as you prefer. So that's part 1, and then we can go and choose, let's see, different patches for part 2. Okay, the output is not assigned, probably right in here. Classic. Okay, if you want to get sample accurate sequencing, I highly recommend setting up MIDI tracks in your DAW to get the MIDI going properly. So MIDI output, I'm just going to use the Supernova port, and then channel 1 is corresponding to part 1 on the editor, and if I do another one, that's going to be channel 2, and I can do all the arrangements for those MIDI channels and still hear these sounds. Obviously there is again error on output routing, so let's get these sorted out. Yeah, so I don't know what else to kind of introduce at this point. If you want to do automation, that's probably quite important. Let's say filter cutoff. We're just going to choose the track and then unfold device parameters, click configure, and then move the parameter what you want to assign to the automation. This is saying reload license, so it's not showing up any parameters, so it's not worth for me adding them. You can do automation and well, automation and all the batch management on the editor track, and once you open the project, all the data is dumped into your Supernova automatically. Okay, yeah, I think that's it for now. If there's anything else you want to know, just hit me up. There's quite a lot of options to use with the editor. Still not getting the full menu. So we can choose to register. We have different preferences for user experience and user interface settings. Randomizer, it can exclude various different selections or sections from randomizer. You can see these dices in the UI, they are just randomizing those sections like so. Obviously you can lock each of the sections, or better yet, you can save your preferred settings, or you can copy them and then go to different part and paste the exact same settings. Same applies to filter and envelopes. There are multiple options to go about. Same goes for effects. So if you have a great effects on let's say on a part settings, you've got amazing delay or lush reverb, you can just copy the data and then go back to the program mode and paste the data in here, or save the data in your hard drive and use them when you get back to your session or different session, however you like here. And then the elephant in the room, arpeggiator. So in order to play the arpeggiator needs to be toggled on. Clock has to be internal, or if you can provide clock from your DAW, it can be external. In my case, I'm just going to use internal because I'm not providing clock. Then you're going to adjust the tempo from the arpeggiator page. And now if you choose, let's say, user pattern, it's going to fetch the pattern from the Supernova, and you can do the edits right here. You can obviously choose different bank and different arpeggiator programs, patterns. So let's say I'm gonna choose, well, obviously that needs some fixing, but you can request the data into UI, and because there is no buffer memory for arpeggiator, you have to write the data into your Supernova in order to use the same pattern on a different patch or so. Okay, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. You can see all these dials here, and if you go to mod matrix, the same settings are applied in here as well. Obviously you can randomize these if you so wish to do. Alright, I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers, bye.